And we're live. Hey.
Hey yo.
What's new today? Hello everybody.
Hey TTC.
Hello TTC.
And everybody else.
And everybody else. Welcome TTC and everybody else. Great to see everybody. Okay, let me fix this chat thing a little bit. It's been quite a while since I was hosting, and for some reason it reset like all my OBS settings, so it's a little bit a pain in the ass.
You got this, Eric. You're a pro.
I got this. I know. Been doing this.
How many years have you done live streams?
Many, more.
Thousands.
Thousands.
That should be completely fine.
Yes, exactly.
1,000 years. You've been doing it for millennia.
Good. Here we go. I don't know why the chat is so small, but it's fine. It's fine. Good. So how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing today? Oh, there's no music. Oh, Simon. Oh, what a noob.
Oh my god.
What a noob trap. Oh. Okay, well, at least we can now pick music together, right? Is there a genre we like? Acoustics, ambient, blues, cinematic?
Metal. Get some heavy metal going.
Fantasy? Indie? Jazz? I don't know. I think lo-fi and chill beats. That kind of feels okay. Let's go. Kissing the Moon.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Here we go. Kissing the Moon. Ooh, the jam. Oh.
Wow. All this chat on Norway, Sweden. We haven't even talked about it. Everyone's trying to make a thing here.
Sweden? Norway? What's the difference? It's one big country, right?
Well, that's quite a spicy take.
I think so. Oh, you hear the beats?
Yeah.
How's the audio levels? Are they fine? I think so, right? Quite good.
Apparently, I've changed room. I definitely didn't change room, at least since the last time I was on stream. It's definitely the same one as last time, but I have changed room in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, here we go. Now I'm all set and ready. Good. Good seeing everybody in the chat. So what was this thing about Sweden and Norway? I mean, those are the best countries, right, in Europe? And I'm currently in Sweden. Simon is currently in Norway, and it's the best.
Yeah,
it's the best. Everything below us, everything south of Sweden and Norway is just. Yuck.
But the Finns are good as well. Are you a big fan of the Finns?
The Finns are pretty good. Yeah. And people from Iceland, they're fantastic. Very bra. Canada, I guess, also sort of on the same line. Also a fantastic country.
It's the European North versus everything else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, pissing off the whole world. No. Well, the funny thing is, I'm actually leaving Sweden for like 6 weeks because I'm going to go back to the Netherlands next Wednesday.
Damn.
And then we're going to do a little trip through Germany and Denmark. And then it's home sweet home in Sweden.
Yeah. Get the in-between of Denmark. It's like the crossover of like Scandinavia and the Netherlands. Get the flatness. Get the Scandiness.
Exactly. Best of both worlds. I must say, I always. Good. So today, Simon, what are we going to talk about? I think it's good to just fully focus on the 68G V2, right? Because that's still the most
the spicy topic.
The most spicy topics. Good news for everybody. I finally received my DVT sample.
I wish I could see it right now. I gotta wait like a minute.
Where's your DVT sample, Simon?
DHL has my DVT. I only got little EVT. How sad. EVT. Whatever will I do?
I mean, my EVT, I haven't touched it since I got my DVT. Finally. So for everybody who doesn't know, we're currently in a stage where we are receiving DVT samples, or at least we did a DVT right before Computex, right? So that's about 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks already? I think so, right?
Yeah, like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That kind of territory.
So the DVT samples are already a little bit out there for already a month, but I received mine earlier this week. These are also the samples that we showcased on Computex.
Yeah, they were all DVT samples there.
Yeah, and for the people who don't know what's EVT and DVT, it's time for a lesson in product development, or at least the stages that we have. First, we start with an idea. That idea becomes a mock-up. That's just 3D printed stuff to get a feeling of everything. Then after the mock-up is a prototyping phase where we prototype the keyboard, and sometimes 3D printing, sometimes CNCs. We do like PCBA things and testing out different things. And then at some point we're saying like, hey, it's time for an EVT. And probably Simon can explain better than I can what an EVT is.
Well, like as a general concept, or what it stands for?
Well, both, I guess. That's quite useful.
Both. Yeah, Erik validation test. Yeah, that's spot on. Is it? Yeah, engineering. Yeah, is it? Yeah, engineering. I always get mixed up between engineering or environmental, but I feel like engineering makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's engineering.
I would totally fail the end of your live stream quiz. Goddamn.
For me, for years I thought it was like electronic verification testing, because the next step is more like hardware focused, right? And then EVT, but yeah.
Yeah, well, because DVT is design validation test, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then a lot of what we do in EVT is kind of get pretty close to the core structure. So it's like in like the EVT samples, we don't really have like any of like the box design. It's just like the core structure, but we don't have like any of like decals or anything like that there. And so it's kind of all about just the core, like it's kind of like the first time you get the full product together, and kind of see how everything fits together, and then gives you the most room for doing refinements and tweaks to it. Once we get the DVT, it's much closer to the kind of what we're wanting to produce in the end, and make only like little polish kind of tweaks at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So during the EVT test, like Simon mentioned, I think it's also getting the big risk factors out of the way, right? So around EVT, we really want to finalize the PCBA design, right? Because that's always quite critical, and everything physical to the product. We want to get it as close as final, but we can still adjust the mold, make changes here, and then do certain things there. Because sometimes you discover things as soon as everything is fit together. So I think compared to the EVT sample, we made some changes to the switches. The plate is different.
Yes.
And some little bits and pieces a little bit different. And then the next phase is DVT. That stands for design validation testing. That's where we try to make a final product, or at least very close to final, but we don't really want to make a lot of changes anymore at this stage. So the keyboard is fully assembled, it's in the packaging, it has like all the parts and pieces and everything together. And then we can review it, right? And see like, hey, what's going on, what's up? And sometimes we discover some minor things and even sometimes critical things. And if we discover a really major thing, then we have to redo the DVT phase if we make big changes. If it's like small change, like, oh, let's make sure that things are aligned better on the packaging, or, add this to this small thing to the packaging, or maybe we should just something that's very not affecting anything else in the whole process. That's still something we can change. And then if everything goes smooth and we approved the DVT, so currently we are reviewing all the DVT samples. A lot of people within Wooting have DVT samples, and everybody has their own view on things, and seeing everybody looks at the product differently, right? And then all the feedback gets put together. Then the bright people of product development, they decide like, oh, we're going to improve this not, this yes, this not, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, it's time for a PVT. And that stands for production validation testing. And
yes, I think so.
Yes, and that's where actually everything is being used how it would be in a mass production environment. So the molds are being used. There will be a few hundred units will be produced during the PVT phase. And it's more for the manufacturer to make sure that the assembly line is set up correctly, and maybe they figure out something along the way like, hey, it's more efficient if we swap these stations around, or maybe the keyboard should go through this line and the packaging here so it comes together. So it's more for them to assemble the whole keyboard together and mass produce the keyboard in an effective way and experiment. It's also for us to get like really close to final products. So here's where we are going to do another inspection, and here's where we also define like, hey, if we for the Q&C steps, so the quality control steps, what are the things we have to take a critical look on that it's done right, and all that kind of things. And then the next step is MP, and that stands for mass production. So if the PVT goes quite well and there are no issues, then we can go into a mass production very quickly afterwards. That's pretty good news. So we're very at the edge of the day before mass production almost at the moment. That's not literally right, but standing at the forefront. And talking about PVT, you told me right before the live stream, Simon, that you will be going to China to oversee the PVT.
Yes, well, that's the idea at least. To when we do that PVT run, gotta make sure that if there's anything does come up, that get that fixed real quick, so that we can get make sure the mass production timeline stays on time.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of sending it through DHL, which takes weeks apparently, thanks DHL Express, sending it to Simon, we just DHL Express Simon to the factory in China, so he can oversee it live. Yeah.
You get that next day delivery. Get Simon over there.
Next day delivery.
Don't need the.
Yeah. So
yeah, get a quick turnaround. So yeah, Calder just like randomly mentioned it to me whenever I was in Taiwan right before Computex, and I was just like, okay, sure, yeah,
sure, let's do it.
I can go.
That's good.
Yeah, Calder really doesn't want the timeline to go off. He's
no, we're very keen.
Gotta be locked on.
Yeah, it's also interesting because we are doing things a little bit different than we do normally in the past. So with all our big keyboard products, right? Let's say when we introduced the 8HE or the 6HE, we always had like this founders campaign period, and that was always before the EVT phase. Or I think with the 60, we were like at the end of the prototype phase when we introduced it. So that was like a long pre-order period where people, had to make an early commitment, had to follow our journey, and then at some point we would deliver the keyboard. With the 6HE V2, we decided like, hey, let's do it a little bit differently. Let's try something new, because we already had like a clear vision of where the 6HE had to go towards, right? And who its customers would be. And it's like all the feedback we have gathered over the years from people who've been using the 6HE or who had complaints or issues with the 6HE. We've been looking at some market trends. And then we thought like, yeah, that's quite a clear vision and we don't need that much user input, let's say, for this product. I think if we actually do a new layout in the future, let's say we're gonna redo a whole new, full size or 40% keyboard or something, then we'll probably involve the U more earlier. But for this, we just thought like, hey, let's keep it internally so there are also less delays, less things, and let's try to get it out in 2025. Yeah, and we did, a lot of testing behind the scenes, and there were some influencer pro players and people in the Discord community we secretly sent keyboards to last year to get like feedback and polish the product. So that's we've done a little bit more in secrecy this time, but I think that the end result is quite good. And now thinking about the DVT, right? So it's quite critical where we now look at the little, to putting the dots in the eyes, right? And one thing, for example, just an example of what it's doing the DVT is you can see like the sticker at the bottom of the keyboard. It just isn't like, not quite big enough to fit this whole place here. So it's like, the sticker needs to be 2 millimeters wider on both sides, right?
And EVT didn't even get stickers.
No, exactly. And that's then a thing you noticed. So this is quite minor, let's say, because that's an easy improvement because these stickers haven't been mass made yet, and so that's quite nice. And some other things, at least what I mostly focused on this time around, was packaging and making sure that was superb. And and Simon is looking at totally different things. Simon's like probing things and seeing if it works in the utility. Oh no, it disconnects. What? I don't know.
Yeah. What did I do all day, Eric? Tell me.
Some vibe coding with the utility. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually like secretly, I'm the Simon GPT.
Simon
Just
GPT.
get that running all day.
Crazy, yeah. So yeah, it's quite an exciting time, and hopefully we can move forward to a smooth PVT and then an MP, so we don't encounter any major delays. Because one thing that's still lurking there, and the biggest time sink of this project, is the war in the Middle East, right? So boats can't go through the Suez Channel. So all the boats going to Europe have to go all the way down South Africa, Cape to the Hope, and then back up to Europe. So that's like a month extra in transportation time. So instead of having 50 to 60 days transport time from the factory in China to our warehouse in Europe, it's now 90 days, right? So yeah. So I don't think.
Yeah, it reminds me of Lekker Edition.
Oh, that
Got
was
a little boat stuck in the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
Little evergreen.
Little evergreen. What
Throwback.
A time. What a time to be alive.
It's like, yeah, that's the real ones know about that one. Yeah. That history.
It was so interesting because we had, in the end, everything we've done for the whole Lekker Edition. We could have just made a totally different keyboard, totally different mold, and do things differently. But I think the whole journey was quite fun. And then the ending, the icing on the cake, where we say like, oh no, the Suez Channel block, let the boat go. And I think the worst part was, as soon as the boat went south towards Africa, that's also around the time when the boat got unstuck. So in the end, it would have been, I guess, more efficient if the boat waited there. But I guess,
yeah, sometimes the world just wants to get in the way of you getting your nice shiny new keyboard from Wooting.
Yeah.
But I think I'm feeling pretty good about this run. I feel like it's probably like, maybe I'm speaking too soon, but it feels like the most comfortable production that we've done so far.
I'm not the one jinxing this. It's you.
Oh, yeah, no jinxes. But I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got even though it's like we're feeling good, we're still being more careful than usual. Yeah. It's like, I've never been to the factory before, so it'll be my first time kind of going and inspecting and making sure everything's smooth. Maybe I'll find some nice areas I can improve on for our the software side of our production process.
Yeah, interesting. Somebody said, Eric, you said you're gonna do full size. You will ask us for help. So technically, you leaked it to HEV2. I mean, that's jokes on you.
And he also said 40%, so I guess 40% is leaked as well. 40HE, 40HE confirmed.
40HE Autolineo. I mean, I could say like I could have said 65 or the 60HE V3 or the 8HE V2.
TKL or 75. Gets real spicy.
I mean, I don't know what the future will bring and what our next keyboard will be, but at least I know our next product will be a keyboard. And probably the keyboard after that will be a keyboard as well, right? And
the keyboard after that will be a keyboard? Whoa.
It's like, so as soon as the 6HE hits the warehouse, Carl has this big wheel in his office. So next live stream, you have to take notes in his background. It's like a big wheel of all like different layouts and models. And he's like spinning the wheel a few times and then it lands on something. He's like, oh, we make another 60. Let's do it. Let's make a 60 V3.
Let's go, run it back.
That's how we're deciding what products we're gonna make. So if it lands on a full size, who knows? Maybe we get maybe Christmas comes early in 2026, 2027, 2028. Who knows? Because it's Mark and me really advocating the full size and the importance of this. We are the only two who likes full size.
Yeah, there's dozens of you, so many people that really want a full size.
Yeah. And you can also see it on Discord, right? And people just asking like, hey, when will the 2HE get a refresh? Or, will there be a different full size? Because full size is such a common layout, and the model we currently have is, I wouldn't say obsolete or worse. It's still a great keyboard. It's just not up to the quality standard that we currently have, especially if you compare it to the 6HE V2 or the 8HE. It's just feeling wise, sound wise, it's a night and day difference. Yeah,
you can feel the age in like the product as a whole. It's quite clear from from everything compared to the 80HE and the 60HE. It's quite a different. It represents quite a different era of Wooting, which is nice in a way, but it's not really like. It doesn't really check all the boxes we want from that kind of product anymore. So.
No, exactly. And I do think working on a full size, it's very interesting because the audience for full size is more casual gamer when you're talking about gamers, right? Vibe gamers, MMO players who want all the buttons, people who want to use it for productivity work, right? Just normal human beings instead of sweaty tryhard. So it's also, you have to create a different product, right? A different mindset, like, hey, who's your target audience? Who are you making this for? And what Mark also mentioned, sound and modding capabilities. Modding is like a little bit less for full size because there is not a real standard layout and standard cases like you have with a 60 or up to a certain point, even 65% have like some standards, and everything below that size or above that size, just the Wild West, right? Okay. Anyway,
yeah. But then it's also kind of a bit about our own kind of dedication to the modding aspect of the of the product. Because like for the 80HE, for example, I mean that's a pretty new layout, but because we're delivering it as like a module product, then you have all these cases popping up where it's like now I think there's probably easily more 80HE case options that you can choose right now than there are for quite a lot of 75% keyboards, for example.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because of how we position the product, and like that it is like modding is like a first class feature in terms of how we design the products, especially these days. Because I mean, 80HE, I think it was very, I think it's like 60HE, like the module stuff came later, and it was kind of like, it started as like, okay, there's this nice modding thing, and then later on we're kind of like able to go more into a modding first product where it is dedicated to like, okay, you bring your own case, bring your own switches, yada yada.
Yeah.
But then the 80HE kind of was that from the beginning, and that's also what in general we're kind of aiming for as like a kind of our baseline standard for products going forward as well.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I really like about the whole fact scene in general is how many more switches there are out there, right, with different feelings, so you can customize your keyboard even more. And one thing I was quite surprised with was with the 80HE, how fast manufacturers come up with different cases, and it's just very cool to see.
Yeah, it's very awesome, especially after kind of like the sentiment that we had after the initial announcement and how kind of negative the feedback was overall, especially around the layout and the modding options. It kind of feels quite rewarding that now it's kind of like the coin is kind of flipped to the other side, where because of the way that we have built this product, that we kind of inherently support this kind of like third-party market for doing different cases, because we are giving a product where it is like the customer can just buy the module. Because if it was just like, oh, you just buy the 80HE pre-assembled and you have the case, whatever, then like the desire for third parties to kind of enter building just a case for it kind of becomes a lot less, because it's a much higher ask of your average customer to kind of buy this full assembled product and then also buy another case on top of it. But if you can buy just the module and you're not having this case that goes to waste or whatever, then it kind of makes a lot more sense for these companies to build it, especially alongside the schematic files that we provide to assist on the development of those.
One thing I also thought was pretty cool is that the 8HE has a daughter board, right? So with one of the cases, the USB was like in the center, and they had like a little longer cable for the daughter board, and that's also fantastic that they provided it with the case, and
well, in a way we kind of, because of the way that the product structured, it kind of is a requirement in a way, because at least the daughter board comes with the case when we have the module and the case products. The case is the one that has the daughter board at least. I mean, the cable is on the module side, if I remember correctly. So I guess the cable bit is like maybe the distinguishing factor there.
Yeah, and then with the 60HE V2, the modding is even easier than way before, because let me just take it apart. I love taking my DVD sample apart.
Yeah, the most fun party trick.
Party trick.
For everyone that takes their keyboard to a party, you got the party trick and just rip that module out.
Whoa, it's stuck. How do I get it out? Well, we have this super unique, epic tooly, and there's like a little holy. See, a little holy, and we have this little tooly. You just put it in a hole. You can just do it mid-air, and you easily. Oh, I totally missed the camera shot here. Oop, you pop it out, and that's it. And then you have a nice module, nice tape mod, some nice specs and information. You should read this in your own time once you've ordered the 60HE V2. And this is very cool
whip
because
out the keyboard module and inspect all the info.
All the info, yeah. So this whole module, right? It fits into, I would say, almost any aftermarket 60% case. At least every model that supports a GH60 form factor, let's say. Not every case allows for the friction fit, so there could be the case where you have to remove the friction fit and put a different foam in between, and then you can just still screw it in because it has all the screw holes. So that was quite fun developing this product as well, right? Making sure it's backwards compatible with what's already out there, and also making it backwards compatible with what we've already made through the years. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's gonna be nice seeing how the friction fit mounting approach kind of translates to a more mass market product, because we have already done it with the Optimum case, but that's kind of a much more, in the grand scheme of things, a niche product, just inherently. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how the general reaction is, because there's a lot of people that have not tried friction fit mounting approach, and also kind of how it also translates to what people end up doing with their 60HE V2, because there's been a lot of I know Wasabi said from his experience using the V2 that it was kind of something where you don't really need to mod it, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how people will actually end up
we made
doing a case
modding
swap
obsolete.
and that kind of things. Yeah, just make it so good that you don't need the mod. Easy.
I think when it comes to, I think now the sound profile we've locked down with the keyboard, it's very nice. It's also, with the different foam, because this is what standard is installed, right? It's like a silicone sound dampener, and it, has a different effect than if you put the EPDM. Is EPDM, right?
Yeah, EPDM, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, if you put the
that will come in the box as
that's
well.
also into the box, so you get a different tone. I think the silicone mutes it all a little bit. The EPDM makes it more bassy, I would say. So it's quite interesting how you can mix and match different things and already have a pretty good range of sound profiles. The Lacquer Thicker switch also quite contribute to this, I think. And I think out of the box it's pretty good, but you can never please everybody, right? Some people want more silent keyboard, some people want more loud keyboard or foggy keyboard, or more creamy, right? Or more higher pitched or more lower pitched, or a stiffer feeling, a looser feeling. It's so that's still where modding comes into play. And one thing I've noticed the last year is how impactful keycaps are when it comes to sound and your sound profile, because I think our the PBT keycaps we currently have, it creates, because the material is quite stiff, the sound you're getting from it is also a little bit more higher pitched in general if you compare it to, for example, ABS keycaps, but then the thicker ABS keycaps, the double shot ABS keycaps, for example, that's a whole different sound profile. Or now we have the OEM profile still on the PBT keycaps. If you have a set where you have cherry profile, you also have less material that can create that sound. I don't know how exactly how it works, but it's just very interesting that people sometimes underestimate the impact keycaps can have on the actual sound of your keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately every little detail matters in terms of the overall picture of the sound.
Yeah.
And just some affect it in different ways and to different degrees.
Yeah. But
I've been very happy with the, like at least the DVD samples we had Computex. I was very impressed on the sound profile and the feel of those. I was like, there was one point where I was just like testing, like playing some CS on the whatever was like the streamer setup or whatever we had. And I was just like, at one point I was like, damn, this feels so good. It's so nice. Like, can I just take this one with me, please?
But everybody's super mad because, or at least everybody, people, also reviewers and influencers who came by on Computex, so people who made videos about it. It was like, yeah, it sounds very good, but I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna let you hear it now because there's too much noise here around it, blah blah blah. That's like, okay, keep your secrets to yourself. And then it's even us, right? Like, oh, it sounds very good, but do we ever let hear it? No.
Top secret.
Top secret. Now I know
Secret
that Marco is working on a sound test video, so that will come out soon. And talking about videos, this is a nice bridge, like I planned it. So first of all, I expect a sound test next week or the week after. So that's going to be cool. But upcoming week we will also probably have our first update video for the 6HE V2. So from now on we have like a more regular schedule. I don't know if we're gonna do it every 3 weeks or every month, right, where we just inform and update everybody, and if there's something major, critical, something exciting to share, we can always do it a little bit sooner. But just on a regular interval, have a nice 6HE V2 update video, similar to what we did with the 8HE last year, and in the future, or in the past with the 6HE as well, just to keep everybody informed and up to date of the current status. And I think the first one will be a little bit, I wouldn't say boring, but it's somewhat what we already discussed. So like, hey, we're now reviewing DVT phase, this is what you can expect, and moving forward. And behind the scenes, right, we're prepping all the assets and marketing efforts for making the launch of the 6HE V2 fantastic. And
Yeah, I mean, one little kind of tidbit I'll give of that is that we already have like nearly everything software-wise for 6HE V2 running pretty well. It's all in alpha, so it's like it's probably gonna be the fairly early that you'll kind of like have utility, like public utility, already being able to support and update the 6HE V2 before it's actually delivered to people.
That's the first time.
Well, it's just the first time. I mean, I think the 6HE Plus was pretty early, to the point where I think I might have leaked to people that like kind of data mine the
we have
a little bit.
Data miners for the utility? Jesus.
Yes, yeah. So it's like I've been very careful not to put any, before we announced 6HE V2, I was like, okay, I'm keeping it all like a bit back, even though I already kind of finished a lot of it. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not letting you have it yet. Not letting people find out about this.
But if we have data miners, Simon, we can just troll them, right? We can just say like, oh, 8HE V2 or 2HE V2, just have fun branches.
Yeah. 40HE, 30HE, 12HE. Get them all in there. All the pranks.
The Uwu 2.
The Uwu V2. Uwu squared.
Uwu squared. Yeah, damn, that would be sick.
Yeah.
It's good that you mentioned Eric do the sound test now. I would love to do a sound test. The thing is, the mic I have is like an auto balancing mic, and so it doesn't pick it up. I have to download software for this, and probably when I download the software, my mic will crash and nobody will hear me. So next stream I'll come more prepared for the sound test. So no sound test from me, sadly.
It's too noisy.
It's too noisy.
I'm in the background.
Ooh to the ooh. Yeah.
Wooting,
good, but it's quite good to already have like it early on the radar for the 60HE V2. How is because with the 80 I felt like, there was still like a whole pile of things we had to do, but around the 8 we also had like the whole utility V5 revamp, right, coming up. And
yeah, and also like the whole like light bar features and everything. So there was kind of like a lot of new things going on with it, whereas 6HEV2 is very much like kind of like an evolution. And on the hardware side, there were some new things, and that was kind of like the biggest amount of work on this from software perspective. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a ton of new things, which I think is also like when you were talking earlier about the kind of like the project timeline and how it kind of aligns with where we do like the launch campaign. It kind of makes sense for like a 6HEV2 to be something where we can have a much tighter time gap between when we are like announcing it, when we're opening orders, and when it's actually delivering. Because in general, it is a much nicer experience to have like that to be shorter, so that when you're going in to make your purchase, that you're going to be getting it in like a month or two, not like in 6 months or longer if there's a delay or whatever. And that's with a product like this here, where it is kind of like an iteration, and we kind of, there's not a ton of new things that we need to kind of figure out if this is actually a good idea or not. It's much more safe in a way to kind of be further along in the development process of delivering the product before we get people coming in to buy it.
Exactly. Like I mentioned earlier, it's sort of a double-sided sword, I guess. Is that a positive thing? No, so it's nice, that the wait time isn't that long. It's also not so nice that a user doesn't have, at least our early customers and Discord community and community members in general, have like less impact on the final product.
Have less influence in changing and tweaking things. I mean, we kind of already had like a bit of an in-between of that with the ADHD, because we were a little bit further along than for previous products, but then we still had a bit of room to make that adjustment, like for the arrow keys and shifting and that kind of thing. But then that was, in the grand scheme of things, a fairly minor change compared to a lot of the other things we were being asked to change. So that one was kind of thing where we could still kind of make that little tweak. But whenever it's getting, if you want to make like substantial changes, and I have like a much more like a product like overall that shaped a lot more about the community, you do need to have that kind of the launch campaign and that kind of stuff to begin quite a bit earlier. So that there actually is like, you haven't finalized your molds that are very expensive and those kind of things.
Yeah, it's interesting question here. Have you ever looked into making a low profile HE keyboard like the Nufi Air 60 HE? It's also called 60 HE. It's such a boring name.
Well, Air 60 Space HE.
Air 60 Space HE. Yeah, I mean it's cool having the low profile, and I guess it's very ergonomic. It looks quite sleek. It would be nice if there were like aftermarket switches available for our keyboard that are low profile, and I guess you can just buy most of the low profile keycap sets, so that wouldn't be an issue. Currently we especially also with the lacquered ticket, why we still made it like the whole range of 4mm is to mimic that typical mechanical keyboard feeling, what gamers really like. It's something they are used to. And one thing that we really noticed during our journey with the 8HE, we felt like, hey, all Counter-Strike players, they're gonna love the 8HE because it's finally, they have like arrow keys, they have like their F keys for the setups and that kind of things, and their commands of what they're needing. And we felt like, hey, we made like the ultimate CS2 keyboard. And for some pro players we did, but one thing that we've noticed with CS2 in general is those people, the professional players, they're so accustomed to certain things. Some people only want like 3x4 monitors or very specific resolutions or specific mouse things, but also
change is hard.
Change is hard for them, and I think for them it was like the bounce of the gasket mount was just too stiff. Interesting enough, so it didn't feel very nice for them, and they really preferred like a harder end press. And that's something we try to also mimic with the 60HE V2, is where you still have like this hard landing that you can feel, but it isn't, because of the friction fit, it doesn't resonate in your case. So it's also not like extremely hard, but it's still like very firm. It's very difficult to.
You kind of get like the
describe.
best of both in a way.
Yeah.
Because like the biggest thing that you get from, well, not the biggest thing, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of little details, but one of the main things that we wanted from the gasket mount was to have that kind of separation of the module and the case, so that you don't have like all these vibrations that are just going straight through into the case and like resonating through that. And I think the friction fit kind of strikes a pretty good balance of where you still have that experience, but then you don't have the kind of the softness of the gasket kind of being a thing that kind of gets in the way of like the, let's say, the stability of the feel and like the consistency, because a lot of pros especially, they also like expect it to kind of be like, you know, if they do the exact same thing every time, then it's going to be the exact same. But when you got like that kind of, depending on like if you're in like high stress scenarios and that kind of thing, the softness that you get from the gasket could change that, if the like where you don't get that necessarily the same consistency in every single situation that they would be used to on other boards.
Yeah. So getting back to that question, we would love to see low profile switches. It's not something we are currently developing, because we are, you know, mainly focused on making a better gaming experience and still, you know, paving the way to set standards for Hall effect keyboards. So hopefully there will be a switch coming out soon that's compatible with our keyboard. Yeah, besides that, if that never happens, maybe one day we'll work on it. But for now, we didn't, even though we see that there's a need from people, or the question like, hey, I really like this, it isn't big enough for us yet. Let's say that's maybe a good political answer.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool for us to do one, but it's also like the whole aspect of like the, let's say, kind of like, for lack of a better word, the ecosystem that we're kind of building. Like we want to kind of preserve that in the sense of like not creating like fragmentation in terms of like switch variants. Like, oh, you know, you have this board, so you can only do low profile switches, or like, it's a low profile board, like PCB, and this is a high profile PCB. It's like, that kind of sucks. And that's what you see a lot with like these existing low profile switches, is that they all depend on having like the tube going through the PCB, and so you have like different sensors, different setups, and then you kind of create like a whole fragmented like something that you don't really have a lot of crossover between them, and that kind of, at least from my perspective, sucks pretty hard. So that's definitely something that we would need to be able to deal with in a nice way for us to build a low profile board.
Yeah. So also everything we produce, we want to make it in a sort of standard, right? So everything is cross compatible also with all the keyboards. Sure, FlareTech, totally different technology, isn't compatible. If it was, we probably would have supported it, but sadly it isn't. But you know, as long as it HE and magnet thing, we have a place where magnet needs to be in the center, and that's what we'll do moving forward.
Because I think a lot of the low profile ones, they have like essentially like front mounted magnet, so it's like on the top of the front of the stem, so it's not really the same like position that it's going over. I'm not sure what Chains and Saw is talking about, but they do have to modify the PCB.
Yeah,
that's all the low profile boards that exist right now are completely different PCBs.
And that's a shame that there's no standard, especially when it's like hot swappable, right? And you want to have as much as compatibility as possible. And I think when it comes to HE keyboards, it's mostly, they're like, I think now, let's say 2 ways, right? Either it's like the same way we do it with magnet in the center, then there's a different place where you have a magnet, I think.
Oh, there's actually a lot more. Really? That's what I've realized. There's like, because you have center magnet like ours, that's like orientated vertically. There's going to be a lot of like very loose terms here, because but so you have that. There's also like the KS37 style switches, which you've seen in a lot of like the early generations of like Wooting competitors, let's say, and like they have it in the center, but then the magnet's rotated. Because they have the sensor was offset. And then there are ones that have like the front mounted, kind of like those low profile ones we talked about. So it's like on the front of the stem instead of the center. There's also right mounted ones, I think. If I remember correctly, the Logitech holodeck board is right or left.
Yeah, but Logitech doesn't count, right? I mean, Logitech is that they do their own thing, and that doesn't count.
Yeah, okay. Starting some beef here. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, in a way, they're not really targeting like a modding ecosystem kind of thing. It's just like, this is the board and that's it. So it is a little bit of a different story. But yeah, in terms of, I mean, I think that you don't really see the KS37 style ones as much anymore. I think it's a lot of like, that was really like that first generation of like a lot of these competitors that were doing it. I think generally everything has kind of moved towards that kind of like the same as what we've always been doing. So the center magnet, and it's oriented in that way. But then you kind of like, with the whole TMR discussion that I don't really want to get into in this stream, you can check out Calder's rant in the last stream. He covers it pretty well. But that there are elements of that of TMR which are related to the switch and the construction and the magnets and that kind of stuff, which depending on where you tech things, it's also maybe changes some things to still have the same quality of performance.
Yeah.
So
I see good questions where people want to know how the knobs work. It's a trade secret. You can spoil it. It's trade secret. It's our magic sauce. Now we'll get to the knobs when we're getting closer to a actual launch date, let's say, or plan. So first, now we're focused on a 6-stage EV2. You know, like Simon mentioned, making sure that all the dots are on the I's when it comes to the software, getting through this DVT phase, and of course there are people working internally on the knobs and putting that as success. But after this, there will be more focus on, so that will then accelerate more. And so we'll definitely share more on how the knobs work and what they do and what you can do with it, because I think that's the most important part. And I think for the last 2 years, I've been always, when somebody mentioned, oh, we need a knob on the keyboard, I was like, yeah, why do you want to use the knob, right? And I was like, oh, maybe volume, scroll wheel or something. And so the more use cases we have, the better. So if you have great ideas how to use knobs, especially now that you know that you can have multiple knobs on the keyboard anywhere you want, right? Big knob, small knob, you know, just come and pitch ideas, and especially let Simon know, because Simon is the one that will be developing, or at least spearheading, and making sure that things get developed. So if you want like
I'll be the one accounting for all the use cases.
Yeah. So if you want like a little analog steering wheel, that's Simon will make that work.
You give me all your dreams.
Give me all your dreams, yes.
And I'll see what dreams I can make happen.
Yeah. So I don't think it's important on how it works. It's like what you want to achieve with it, right? So let's say.
Yeah. That's I mean, for us, there's a lot of considerations, but yeah, for you as a customer, as an end user of this product, it's ultimately, it's like, yeah, like, you know, it's a knob functionally in terms of what it's able to like detect and input as a result of that. So it's a matter of just like thinking of what do you want to do with it, and volume, of course, is like something that is like the default kind of capability of what it'll be able to do, but it's by far one of the lesser interesting ones for me, just from a technical perspective of what kind of cool things we can do with it.
For me, what I want to see, I want a full-size keyboard, full with knobs, and so we use Gather as our digital office, right? And I want to link every knob to a specific user. So if I don't want to listen to somebody, I just can like rotate the knob in silence.
Oh yeah, audio mixer for every single person.
That's what I want, like an instant mute or in-mute, or like a doorbell.
Yeah,
like
you have like like in your escape key, like the easiest one to get to is Calder, so you can very quickly get rid of them.
Get by.
Like, Calder's running again. Okay, let me turn down.
Okay. Or like you could fast forward him, right? So he talks twice as fast.
Yeah, it's 2 times speed.
That would be good. So I have a question here, Simon, that's written down during the stream by me. How far along are you with the firmware of the 6-stage EV2? Is it like complete? Is it like speedy enough? Is it like where we want it to be? Or is there still like improvements you have and want to make?
Well, like the core functionality in terms of like it operating just as any Wooting keyboard, it's like 99.9% there. But there's this whole other project which some people like kind of in the Discord will be familiar with the existence of this being the, well, I think it's generally referred to as a switch selector in Discord, but we've been more recently referring to it as a switch configurator. We'll see what the final name ends up being in utility, but that is a project that is being very actively worked on right now, and that is something that I want to. I mean, it's not necessarily a hard requirement for it to be done for 68G V2 deliveries, but with the improvements that we're kind of working on when it comes to like the consistency and the accuracy of the response, and like some tweaks to our calibration process, and those we've been seeing quite nice gains in terms of the accuracy and everything, like all the kind of little nitty-gritty details on the keyboard that I would really like to have that kind of wrapped up and out the door before 68G V2 is delivered, so that day one you're experiencing kind of a more refined level of what we're able to provide in terms of the analog response. And of course, that's going to be something that will be for all keyboards. So maybe you'll be getting some really nice, accurate, precise data on your 4-year-old Wooting keyboard. Actually, well, 4-year-olds might be a bit ambitious, because that would get into AVR territory. It's not going to be AVR, I'm sorry. But our ARM keyboard, so like what most people have, those will be getting some nice improvements. Again.
The utility, it's in such a wonderful state at the moment. I had to, of course, configure my. So to be honest, I don't open the utility as regular as I used to, because once my profile is set in stone, it's I'm fun with it. So with the DVD sample, of course, right? I looked into it and I opened it and felt like, wow, it's so nice. It's really good V5. I really like it. The flow and things. And sure, there are some quirks, but it's really well done, software team.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy with where V5 is. Paul did some incredible designs for it, and it's still kind of incredible how it's like it is really good already, and it feels really nice, but it's still like so far from like our end goal of like our dream. Like it's quite funny. There was a while where I think it was like the open graph image of utility on V5 had like a screenshot of like, let's say like the full dream of V5 designs and all the features that we kind of planned for it. And it was just sitting on the open graph for a while. And as far as I know, nobody noticed that there was like all these features being leaked
nice.
in this image. And I think we changed it around like when we were getting to like beta stable kind of territory of V5.
Let's do it. Let's go to openarchive.org.
Look for the open graph, find it. I hope it's not able to be found. And well, actually, I don't care if it's able to be found. It's more of like I don't remember what things were leaked in that, and I hope that it's things that I'm okay with being leaked.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's good. It also, I mean, sometimes there are like great ideas, right? But you just have to scrap them because of time, or it isn't right there yet, right? But still, sometimes it's like a whole journey to get to a certain point, and it's at some point we should really do a like utility retrospective and just go through all the iterations and the decisions we had to make, and that would be a very nice video. Yeah,
I think there was like one wood up we did, like a digital wood up, where me and Jeroen had like a little software workshop thing we did, where we did kind of go over like the old versions of it. And like V1 utility is quite interesting. It's not because whenever I joined, I kind of V3 was already present, and so I kind of whenever I started getting into like working on utility, that's when we started bringing it towards V4, and then later on like V5. But like V1, V2 is quite spicy.
It is, right? It is. It's fantastic. I mean, I wonder who coded the whole front end there.
Yeah, who could have done that?
Horrible.
Our favorite vibe coder.
I mean, I wish we had vibe coding back then, and maybe it would have been not so good for us.
Could have been a lot more productive. Get a lot more stuff done.
But it's very interesting to see how that has been grown. And one thing that always struck me is, especially I think V2, yeah, with the V2, especially when the Wooting 1 at the end, there were like reviews who praised the software, how easy and intuitive it was. Then I look at V2, it's like,
And V3 is already pretty rough going back to.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
look at V3, I'm just like, oh,
yeah, it is, right?
damn. And now I'm going to V4, I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, but with V3 you can see it how inconsistent everything is, right? And how it grown, and then with V4 you can see that everything is a little bit more consistent and coherent, and then V5 is just like perfect, excellent. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I have to end the stream because otherwise I have to do vibe coding with Simon. I promised it wouldn't take longer than an hour. But there's one thing I wanted to mention, and I briefly talked about it, that this week we will share or early next week. No, yeah, end of next week or early the week after. We will have our first update video for the 6HE V2. And we will also make some changes to the website then of the 6HE V2. So there will be some tabs, and there will be like the product information that will stay the same. There will be a tab with FAQ information. So we've seen a lot of people asking similar questions the last couple of weeks. So we are starting a FAQ there. So if you have questions, repeat them 50 times and then we'll add them to the FAQ as well. And there will be a section where you can find all the latest news regarding to the 6HE V2. And I know that there's also planned for a new homepage. Maybe that goes live as well around that same time or something. But that'd
be nice.
That's something to look out as well. It's been
get our mugs off the front page finally.
End of an era, right?
End of an era. Yeah. Like this set of people that at the time were the entire company, and then still being there when the company is completely different scope.
No, but that's good. Finally a new homepage, finally a new banner after all these years.
Yeah. I mean, just in time for my 6-year anniversary.
Hey,
almost.
Oh!
Yeah, managed to drop that one in there. I realized we didn't cover it.
Yes.
But yeah, last second drop.
Last second drop. So Simon has been with us for?
6
6
full years.
Yes.
Yesterday was 6 years on the dot.
Insane.
Pretty wild. It's quite a milestone. It doesn't feel like 6 years. It's went pretty fast.
Time flies, right? It's crazy. It's crazy
Yeah.
how to think about what happened in. I remember was like because I think Gavin also started around that time, and was it that you then started as an intern, or was the
that's the 6 year mark here, at least by this anniversary, is when I started doing an internship. Yeah.
So that time was quite wild because it was me, Jeroen, and Calder, and I think maybe Lily was still doing an internship with us around the time. I can remember. I was like, okay, so we have Kevin, coming, and that's gonna cost extra money, but we do need a industrial, a better designer to make better products. And then this intern Simon, and but he's very good, and he was already like early talk, like, we also need to hire him. It's like, but how are we gonna pay him? It's where does this money come from? It's like insane. It's interesting.
Where is the money for things?
Yeah, it's interesting how the whole company was just different all those years ago, right? Because we were still growing, and one thing that we didn't want was like having outside funding and investors. We want to, get it from ourselves, get it from customers who believed in these ideas, right? With all the crowdfunding and pre-orders and pre-sales, and just slowly building up this whole keyboard idea, right? Analog keyboard idea, and but it's a good thing you came along, because I think it has been your major improvements, right, to the product itself, and the software and hardware and firmware, I should say, firmware and software. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the one that started the whole web driver trend.
That's insane if you think about it, right?
Yeah, that is pretty insane. Especially, I mean, I had like really shitty motivation for why I wanted to do it in the first place, but which rightfully so was not like a particularly stelling idea for you and Calder and Jeroen and Kevin as well. But and then I just like, I'll just make a prototype. I'll just make it happen. And then it was like, oh shit, this is really awesome. Yeah,
because back then we had like this sort of pool at the beginning of the year. We like pitched ideas like, hey, how can we make things better? And Sam was like, yeah, we need utility in the web. That's fantastic, amazing, And everyone was like, yeah. And if we try this, like, oh, this is the best thing ever. But it's pretty wild that this is now sort of the standard for a lot of these peripherals, right? I think for mice you have like online configurators for keyboards, and some companies do it very well, others not so very well. But it's quite insane how you really started this trend. Yeah, that's. I think even Corsair, right? I mean, that's like an insanely pretty big company, I would say. Even they have like a online configurator now, right, for the keyboard.
Yeah. But what's kind of interesting with that, and it's kind of what I experienced with purchasing a new mouse. I'm not going to call it any names, but I find it kind of made me realize that there's a lot of these people that are doing, like, they see WebDriver as kind of like a really big thing, and it's something that like the market and customers are really demanding as a feature.
Yeah.
But they're not. It's not something where it's just like, oh, now our software for everything is on the web. It's really it's not the case. Where it's like, so the mouse I bought, it's like, it's a nice mouse, and like I don't really care that much about like having like tons of settings I'm changing for it. But I was kind of just like shocked whenever I went and it's like, oh, okay, this mouse doesn't get a web configurator, but this new model they're making does. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. I was kind of expecting to like come in here and just be able to use it because I'd heard that they had one. And I think that's also kind of applies to the Corsair case, where it's like, oh, it's this new product that they have a WebDriver for, but it's not like all their products, which for Corsair is kind of understandable because they have quite a vast product catalog that covers a lot of things that are not things that you can just have on the web.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Like lights from your PC. I don't know if that's a thing that you can do through the web, right, or some other settings.
Like RGB stuff that's running, like that needs to be desktop software.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also difficult, right, making everything that you had, or that's still relatively recent, making that compatible to the web. But the one thing that really surprised me is that a lot of these companies, how they do product development, I think they just really look at like, hey, what are the reviewers saying what they like about products? Oh, no bloated software WebDriver. Okay, our next mouse needs a WebDriver. Okay, because that's a positive tick on the review part, right? And that's
Yeah, it's also kind of funny with that is that like they see like, oh, WebDriver is like this big thing, especially like, oh, like Wooting, everyone loves the WebDriver, and that's what a lot of people talk about in reviews. But with the data that we've got for how like the distribution of our users is across the web version and the desktop version, I think would be quite surprising to most people that a lot of these companies, they say like, oh, WebDriver that's what we need, but they don't. But it's not necessarily only the WebDriver. Having like the hybrid kind of option that we have, where you can do either, that actually is something that seemingly is quite important to a lot of our users. Although there's a question of like, if we only had WebDriver, if that would be if you would maybe see different data, and maybe some people are kind of sticking to downloaded desktop software out of habit, who knows. But
one thing that I don't like about having a WebDriver only is that it isn't supported by all browsers, right? So you cannot do it in Safari, or I think, can you do it in Firefox? No, right?
Yeah, the Firefox Safari you can't do. You can do pretty much anything else, but that's because pretty much everything else is based off Chromium.
Yeah. So what will happen if Chromium isn't like the default anymore? Shit hits the fan.
It would be hard to imagine Chromium stuff not being the default, just because it's like there's so many like they are really like the kind of like the one spearheading like development of like browser APIs and like functionality, and so I think that's kind of for another core browser to really take over as like the primary one. They also kind of need to be the ones driving forward the new technologies and features on like a not from necessarily from like a user facing perspective, but from like a web page capabilities perspective.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's end it here. And now we can answer 2 more questions from the chat. Is that fine? Then I can answer one, Simon, and you can answer the other one.
Oh, well, do you have specific ones, or do I get to choose?
Yeah, you get to choose. I mean, let's answer 2 more questions. We answer them by truth, no lies, no secrecy, no.
Full 100% true. So if someone asks you, oh, when are we getting 6HTTP2, and you have to tell the exact dates.
I'll tell the exact dates. well, exact dates. I'll give a rough indication, I guess. That's everybody's like.
Yeah, I mean,
So
do we even have many questions?
no more questions. But I mean,
Well, I just want to thank everybody that congratulated me for. Appreciate it.
Hey. I mean, maybe there's like a 10-minute delay in the stream, right? So after the stream ends, everybody's like sending in their message.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, questions! Oh, we need questions! Yeah."
Uh-oh, the music ended.
Oh, well, Mark asked a question.
Okay.
I'm the most excited for in 5.1 utility, and that one's kind of like a bit like. I mean, we already have kind of finalized what 5.1 is, and it's what the beta is. So it's actually like that. The real question is what's the most excited for 5.2. But you didn't ask that question. But no, for 5.1, it's actually the live preview of the RGB. I'm really big fan of that. I really like the preview we got into utility of the RGB on the keyboard. It really kind of makes everything feel a lot more complete, and not having this whole thing where it's like for RGB you kind of have to just know that what you see in the preview is like the perky RGB settings you've done, but then that's not necessarily what you're going to see on the keyboard because it depends on what effects you've done. That kind of has always sucked. So now that we can actually have that like in a one-to-one of what you see on the keyboard to what you see with utility, that is really, I'm really happy with that.
5.2. Okay.
Mark's going to retract. And now, you know what, 5.2? 60H EP2 support. There we go, got it. That's the only thing that's actually in 5.2. But no, I think it's going to be Switch configurator. That's going to be probably, I think, going to be the biggest thing for 5.2, alongside background serial stuff. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So now after the other one, do you still have something to leak? If yes, what? Yes, I do have something to leak.
Oh boy, it's going to leak.
But I'm going to show it for a few seconds on the stream, and I'm going to end the stream right after. So
it'd be really nice if you had an actual leak. That'd be amazing.
It is. I have an actual leak, and I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it in a flash. I'm going to end the stream right after, and then I'm going to go into YouTube and I'm going to leave the stream. So be ready to make the screenshots. Here it is for the first time ever on a live stream. 6HE white.